Give everybody a minute to load in here. I still have to eat my yogurt. I haven't had my breakfast yet. Because we're trying to be healthy. I guess it isn't obvious. Today, the description of the video for the characters or drastically shorten the time. To, and I guess, remembrance of Charlie Kirk, going to Starbucks, ordering a order that their name is Charlie Kirk. And attempts to, if the barista doesn't order is done and whatnot, then employee, and pardon me while I ate. Apparently, she was appalled to find up here for everybody on the widescreen. If you're watching, Karina, not Charlie, Karina, one of the, and then blame the barista, mock. Um, so that makes with the manager until they went back. That's particular Starbucks. None of the employees wrote loser on the cup. They didn't write anything, and then watched as with a smiley face on the confrontation that she instigated. So that's fun. That was cool. That's a master class in. All right. I'm in multi-chat. Hey, babe. So straight up trying to get people fired over nothing but pettiness. That tracks. Yeah. So the comments will take a minute to filter in. Portrait viewers, you're gonna get the TikTok and YouTube and watching me and squeeze it down. We'll get it down just a little bit. That phoned. People are not fucking to the very end. We wanted to talk, apparently, YouTube videos and whatnot. I don't know this person's environment after Charlie Kirk's death. So that's in October of 1984. It's a British far-right political commentator. Speeches and writings criticize Islam and Breitbart from 14 to 17, the years 2014, 2017. During this time, he rose to prominence as a significant voice for online harassment of actress Leslie Mills. Yiannopoulos leaked BuzzFeed News in 2017. Yiannopoulos solicited white nationalists, such as during his tenure at Breitbart. Yiannopoulos has been accused of advocating for pedophilia after emergence of several video clips in which he said that sexual relations between 13-year-old boys and adults can be perfectly consensual. They cannot. Disclaimer right now, they cannot. And positive experiences for such boys. Following the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, was rescinded, and a contract to publish his autobiography with Simon & Schuster was canceled. Yiannopoulos has said that he is not a supporter of pedophilic relations, and that his statement reflected his own victimhood as an object of CSA by priests. Sus. In 2022, Yiannopoulos served as an intern for United States Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm sorry. I apologize to the ears. Then worked with white nationalist Nick Fuentes. He's a groyper, whom he later turned on, and rapper Kanye West on the latter's short-lived 2024 presidential election campaign. In April 2024, Yiannopoulos was listed as chief of staff at Yeezy Apparel, was stepped down on 15th of May due to West's announcement of adult entertainment division at the company. So this is the guy who, so far, faced the political sphere to get younger kids involved in politics again. This is the guy who says that his own personal experience, end quote, of CSA by a priest. I mean, to be fair, he does track with the right wing. Yeah, he is Islamophobic. He's anti-feminist. Oh, despises women apparently. He's apparently, get this, this isn't in this article, but this is something that a reformed gay man who advocates for conversion torture camps. I know he's a reformed gay. Oh, excuse me. All right. So that's who the right is advocating for coming back into the space, because he put out a pro pedophilia far right winger who was with Kanye when he put up swastika merch. By the way, mustache guy wannabe Nick Fuentes, co-conspirator. Y'all can go ahead. I'm not going to give any grace, leniency, or entertainment to any ideas within that. They can all go fuck themselves sideways with a chainsaw, metaphorically speaking. Next up, I want to talk about today was the Trump spoke at the UN.
Good afternoon, everyone.
There's some interesting
Happy
things were said
Monday. Good to see all of you
within
here.
this 30-minute
I want to
period.
start with a preview of President Trump's childhood autism epidemic, alongside his top
This was
health
before
advisors
the
who are working to
autism
make
speech that
America
Trump gave.
healthy again. This will be embracing full transparency in government and championing gold standard science. Tonight, the president will depart to New York City ahead of the 80th deliver a major speech touting the renewal of American strength around the world, his historic accomplishments in just 8 months, including the ending of 7 global wars and decayed the world order. And he will articulate his straightforward and constructive vision for the world.
From when he was at the UN.
The president will also later in the day hold a multilateral meeting with Qatar, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey. It will attend a reception tomorrow night with more than 100 world leaders before returning to Washington, D.C. On Thursday here at the White House, President Trump will welcome President Erdogan of Turkey for a bilateral meeting. And on Friday, the president will travel to Long Island for the Ryder Cup golf match between the United States and Europe. This event is one of the greatest sporting events in the world, and it would not be taking place this year without President Trump's help. President Trump signed an executive order last week preventing a strike that would have crippled the New York City area ahead of the tournament, and at the request of the 5 labor unions who all represent workers on the Long Island Railroad. One of the greatest golfers in the world, Bryson DeChambeau, praised the president's critical intervention, saying, quote, "When the possibility of a strike threatened to President Trump's decisive leadership, the Ryder Cup experience will be everything fans and the golf community deserve." Again, that's a quote from the great golfer Bryson DeChambeau. Now let's all hope the American Ryder Cup team can. Brand new polling shows that Americans' faith in the economy and the direction of the nation is back on track and shooting even higher. Home ownership is more affordable, with mortgage rates dropping to a 3-year low. For new home buyers, this represents a $250 decline in your monthly mortgage payment, or nearly $3,000 a year. And President Trump has made it very clear he wants to continue to see mortgage rates decline to a record low, just like they did in his first term.
The reason why mortgage rates are being forced to be so low right now is because the people who watch the market, who actually if we were in such bad economic times, would literally put price freezes on everything that they did during the Great Depression 100 years ago. The only reason why mortgages are so low is because people in charge of that decided that it was the economy was getting bad off enough that they had to homeowners specifically, who typically pay less in mortgage, had enough money to still pay for gauge on how the economy is going, where they forced mortgage rates to go lower. That wasn't Donald. You can blame Donald Trump that the economy's gotten so bad that they've had to drop mortgage rates because of it.
Spending the smallest share of their disposable income on gasoline since 2000 over the last year. Americans are earning more and they are spending more than ever before. After inflation outpaced for 26 straight months under workers rising at the fastest rate in 6 decades.
Because people are being fired.
Retail sales are also booming, up 5% over last year. And the stock market
Low-wage
is booming,
workers are
and
being
Americans'
fired. That's why.
retirement accounts continue
That's
to
all
do
you have
well,
left is the
with
high-wage
Dow,
workers.
S&P 500, and NASDAQ all hitting new record highs. In fact, the S&P 500 is up nearly 15%, and the NASDAQ is up more than 21% since Election Day. As part of President Trump's mission to restore America as the manufacturing superpower of the world, he has secured nearly $9 trillion in U.S. investment, nearly 9 times more than Biden attracted in his entire 4-year term, and we expect that number to be upwards of $15 trillion very soon. We're already seeing the initial economic benefits of these investments, with industrial production recently rising to an all-time high. President Trump built the greatest economy in the history of the world in his first term, and we are witnessing him do it all over again. Now, before I open it up to questions, I do want to speak.
His first 2 years, he inherited Obama's market. He inherited Obama's economy. The last 2 years, the first 2 years of Biden's term, where things were still starting to snowball a bit, they did start leveling out. That was Biden recovering the economy from Trump's economy, from Trump's policies. And then it started going back uphill. So his second term in office, he's still writing Biden's policies and Biden's economy.
Assassination of Charlie Kirk. As President Trump powerfully stated yesterday, this assassination was an attack on everything that makes the United States of America the greatest country on earth. But that attack has completely failed.
Free speech,
the
listen to everyone.
response from the overwhelming majority of the American people over the past 2 weeks is all of the proof that never destroy the values that Charlie stood for. All across the country, millions of Americans have prayed, hosted vigils, attended church services, became politically engaged for the first time, and honored the legacy of Charlie and the ideals he died speaking for. The beautiful example, and Erica Kirk's mercy was one of the greatest acts of grace this world has ever seen. May God continue to watch over Erica and their beautiful children. Unfortunately, there have been some jarring exceptions to this unity. This past Friday, 58 House Democrats voted no, and 38 voted present on a resolution that simply stated, condemning in the strongest possible terms the assassination of Charles James Kirk and all forms of political violence. There were no strings attached to this vote. This was a simple gesture of human decency to denounce political violence. I wish I could say that this was only a fringe group, but 96 votes is nearly half of the entire. A number of those same Democrats took to the House floor to smear Charlie Kirk's name. The man wasn't even buried yet.
That is also a lie.
Democrat members of Congress were denigrating his medical. The Democrat Party has become. Many Democrats and elected officials
every
have
word
now
out of
been
this
totally
woman's mouth is
captured
just
by
a divisive
radical
fucking lie.
Of the far left base who want to dehumanize our nation can heal. For too long, past leaders have offered platitudes while political violence has been allowed to fester and harm innocent Americans. There has been
the right is the one who's been doing most of the political killings and the political assassination attempts.
Whom they disagree
and
with.
we've been everybody who's not far right has been saying stop the violence, stop the violence, stop the violence, stop the violence.
An attempted
right?
transgender assassin traveled to Justice Brett Kavanaugh's family home trail. Another attempted assassin tried to kill the president at his golf club in Florida.
All of them are on the right.
Assassin shot United Healthcare CEO Bryant Thompson right in the back in the heart of New York City. ICE agents are facing a more than 1,000% increase in assaults for simply doing their jobs.
Of kidnapping people.
Left-wing mobs engaged in illegal behavior, targeted Jewish Americans, and shut down America's college campuses under the previous administration. Left-wing mobs.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking about the pro-Palestinian protests? I didn't know being pro-Palestinian was anti-Jewish.
Jewish museum here in Washington. These are just a few.
I don't condone the violence. I still don't know who did that.
Growing left-wing political violence in our country.
It's the right-wingers who are committing the violence.
Domestic terrorism to finally restore order in our country. The American people can expect further, very strong action on this. Their lives simply for stating what we believe in. With that, I will take your question. In today's new media seat, we have Monica Page, who is the White House correspondent for Turning Point USA's news organization On the Front Lines. Monica, thank you for being here. We're so sorry for the loss of Charlie. I know you work for him, you were very close to him, and we appreciate your being in the new media seat and also your commitment to covering the White House. You are here every day, just like the rest of everyone in this room. So why don't you kick us off today?
Thank you so much, Caroline. I don't think you realize how much it means to me to be here in this seat, especially.
I thought we were taking questions.
Front lines, we greatly appreciate it. We also greatly appreciate the outpouring of support.
They're really
and just
really
kind words
milking
we
this
heard
political
yesterday at the
assassination.
memorial service. That means more to us.
Quote, they're
than I
really
don't think
milking
anybody
this.
ever knows. And even the global support that we're seeing for Charlie has been overwhelming, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Government and local officials said that Antifa inscriptions were engraved in these bullet casings that killed Charlie Kirk. It appears to
Talking
be a
about the one
trend,
that says, "Hey, fast" from Helldivers 2.
in this kind of violence, saying there is a domestic terrorist.
Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao
growing in this
also
country.
is an
The president
anti-fascist
is
song.
designating Antifa as a domestic to ensure that violence like this just is eradicated moving forward.
Sure. Well, Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization.
Is that it's decentralized. It doesn't have an operating governing body to dictate what happens when and for proper organizations, right? And if being anti-fascist is promoting terrorist organizations for simply, let's say, hi, I'm Antifa, I'm anti-fascist. You can quote me on that. If me being anti-fascist is me being a terrorist, then you're a fascist. Because if you're anti-me,
from Antifa, I will just read a few.
you're pro-fascist.
In July 2025, several members of an Antifa cell ambushed and opened fire on officers at an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, shooting one officer in the neck. Also, in July 2025, 3 Antifa members were charged with assaulting a police officer during a violent riot outside an ICE facility in Portland, which for weeks prior had been under Antifa terrorist.
Saying that Antifa has terrorist cells is fucking crazy.
The Republican Attorney General of Alabama. In July 2023, Antifa members
are there extremists? Yes, there are extremists. To say that these extremists are 100% like part of it.
An Antifa supporter threatened to shoot police officers and Trump supporters outside of the Florida State Capitol building. Again, I could continue to list many more examples for those in the room who don't believe this is a serious threat to American safety.
Because I guarantee you about half of them, and probably the reason why she stopped right there, nobody's funding them.
Perpetuate so much crime and mayhem across our country.
Thank you. And Charlie Kirk died exercising his First Amendment right, willingly debating, conversing with everybody and all Americans who feel like they are too afraid to express their beliefs, their values, their morals in the wake of such horrific things.
We have to keep speaking up. We have to keep speaking our mind. I know that's what Charlie would want us to do, and we have a right
are they going to keep being racist, misogynistic, transphobic?
By our beautiful Constitution, and Americans should not cower.
You don't care about the Constitution, though. You don't care about free speech.
Speaking the truth. And to end on a lighter note, Caroline, I'd love to know what your favorite memory of Charlie is.
Sure. Charlie was a great guy, and he was, of course, a very influential person in the conservative movement, in the MAGA movement. He was so helpful to the president during the campaign and to all of us who worked on that campaign, that historic campaign. I myself had many great memories going on Charlie's amazing podcast and his show. He was always willing to text people. And he was asking for my husband and I's address to send a children's book to our son. And I think that just speaks to the type of person that he was. And I
stopped him from getting a higher education.
Sure.
Why now? Does the administration have...
Because he advocated for people not going to college.
Showing a possible link
about this, so I don't want to scoop the President of the United States and our Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Because then he'll be mad and you'll lose your job.
Robert F. Kennedy and the paying attention to studies and the gold standard of science and research that many in this city for far too long have turned a blind eye to. So I think Americans are going to be enlightened and proud of what...
Going back to the president's social media post from over the weekend regarding the DOJ.
That was bullshit.
Seeming frustration that they hadn't taken action quickly enough. I want to point to something that the president said during his inaugural address. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. We will not allow that to happen. Is the president going back on his promise?
No. In fact, the president is fulfilling his promise to restore a Department of Justice that demands accountability. And it is not weaponizing the Department of Justice to demand accountability for those who weaponized the Department of Justice. And nobody knows what that looks like more than President Trump. We are not going
He's
to
just
tolerate
weaponizing the Department of
gaslighting
Justice
from
against
anyone
his
in the
political
media or from
opponents.
anyone on the other side who is Biden used this sacred American institution to go after his political opponent in the middle of an election year. And you look at people
Projection.
like Adam Schiff and like James
Deflect.
Comey, corrupt fraudsters
And so
who
he's
abuse their
demanding
power, who
that
abuse
everybody
their
that he
oath of
doesn't
office
like, who
to
hasn't
target
directly
the former
targeted him, but
president and then candidate for the highest office in
he's
the world.
just
Millions of people who reelected him to this office with a mandate to demand accountability, and the president has not been shy about
everything. This is the party
In
of
fact,
guilty,
he
guilty,
took
guilty.
accountability for wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The
If only
American
you had
people
that
gave a
same
mandate
standard
to
for the people in
investigate
your
and
own
root the
party
corruption out of our
or your
system,
own political
and that's what the
leaning.
president wants to see.
Research that suggests there's no clear link between autism on this. A lot of those that say what you're doing today potentially just introduces more confusion into the debate.
I think women for many years, in fact for decades, Ed, have been confused by the rapid increase in autism in this country, in the childhood epidemic.
I'm sorry, the fact that it's
chronic
been
epidemic,
looked
disease
into
epidemic
more
that is
research
plaguing
and saying that
And
that's the
before you
reason
jump
why
to
it's causing so much
conclusions
alarm
based on reports
is
that the White
baffling.
House has not even confirmed, I would encourage everyone in this room to go into the 4 o'clock announcement with some critical thinking skills and with some open
Oh,
ears to
please have
actually
critical
listen
thinking
to what
skills.
the
Please
president
have
and his
critical
team
thinking
of
skills, because
outsiders have to say
almost every
about
other
this.
word
And
out of
there
these
will be
people's mouths
a number of things
is
that will the country who really want answers to what is
mind-boggling
happening to our nation's
speculations
children. So,
coming out
again,
of
I won't get ahead of the
far
president, but
right
I think
field.
everyone in this room needs to tone down the judgment before you even hear.
Did the president ask the Justice
I'm so sorry
Department
to chat.
to close
Excuse
the
me.
case, and does Holman have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Homan never took the $50,000 that you're referring
Oh, we're
to.
gonna
So,
call-
Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and position months later. Mr. Homan did absolutely nothing wrong, and even the president's Department of Justice,
I didn't
even
know my
Kash
fly was
Patel's
undone.
FBI looked of illegal activity or
Except for
criminal
the
wrongdoing,
video and audio
in the White
recording
House, and the
of
president
Tom
stand by
Homan
Tom
taking the
Homan
bribe. But okay.
100% because he did absolutely.
On far-left violence.
Sure.
On the first one, the president said yesterday that the bullet hit Charlie, but it was aimed at every one of us. Do you and your colleagues have a heightened sense of fear following this shooting and this?
Fucking dunce.
Conservatives across the country, by all of us here at the White House. Again, as I said to Monica, many of
That
us
was a
were
planned
personal
question
friends
by the White House.
And I think, it's very unfortunate that those of us who work in this movement have to think about violence just for speaking.
Gender violence we're seeing. Charlie's killer lived with his boyfriend who identifies as transgender, and then we have the Annunciation shooting.
He's a femboy, he's not transgender femboy.
How the administration is viewing this uptake in specifically transgender violence.
It's definitely something worth looking into, and I think anyone who denies that at this point is
Boy.
driven to such evil and such hatred.
And not trans.
There's probably many answers to that question, but the administration is really focused on all of them. For individual investigations and cases, of course, the FBI and the Department of Justice are leading those. But as for this overall violence and domestic terrorism that we're seeing, the White House and the president's policy team will be leading the charge, and that really begins with designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. And I can assure.
News Hour. I just wanted to follow up quickly on something that the president had said yesterday. So we heard from Eric.
Anybody
Kirk,
who, what's
said he
next?
forgives
Anybody who speaks
the
out
man who
against the
shot
government is in
How
TV
does that
censored
square
and
with the
arrested for
down-to-earth
Antifa simply because they
violence
called the
in this
government
country? And
fascist?
then, if I could, I had a follow up on Venezuela too.
Look, the president is authentically himself. I think that's why millions of Americans across the country love him and support him, including Erica Kirk, who you saw so beautifully was on stage with the president in that time, and he was there to give it to her, as well as the vice president and many other top-ranking cabinet officials. Kayla.
Thanks, Caroline. On TikTok, how much the deal is. When can we expect to learn?
20% ownership.
And the deal, like, can you
And
share
Entities in the deal, Kayla, but I do have several details I'm happy to run through for all of you, and the president will be signing the deal, the official deal, later this week at some point. Under the
Is it
terms
while
of this
he's
deal,
in the
TikTok will
UK
be owned by
currently?
a majority of American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials. In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's trusted security provider, and they will Americans' data will be stored securely in the United States without access from China. All U.S. user data will be
It already
stored on
is.
servers operated by Oracle in the United States. Protected will be secured, retrained, and
In the United States,
globally
specifically
interoperable,
for
meaning TikTok
the people
users
in the
in
United
US
States who
will be
use
able
it.
to
All
see
of the
videos
user
posted
data
by
for
users in
United
other
States
countries
citizens or
and
United
vice
States
versa.
accounts are
While I don't
based
have
in
a
the
number on
United
this
States.
specific deal, we do expect
In data
that
farms,
thanks to the
essentially,
president's
in the
leadership
US.
and the securement
Protected
of this
server
historic deal,
locations.
businesses using TikTok will generate as much as $178 billion in economic activity within the U.S. over
Which is the only reason why it's
4
not currently
years.
banned.
This is great news, not just for the millions of American youth who use TikTok. Their data will be safe and secure with this new deal. They'll continue to use this very fun app. But it's also great news for
They just
all
want
the small
their hands
business
in the
owners who have
algorithm,
really
which it's
been able to
unclear
make a
as to whether
living,
the US
off
will
of the
get
use of TikTok.
The official trade deal with China, farmers are getting a little bit antsy navigating, prices being weak and not strong. How is the administration, thinking like, sort of bailing farmers out should prices continue to not work in their favor?
Well, the administration is completely understands the anxiety of farmers. We're very much parts. As for any specific actions, I don't have any news on that for you today, but I can fully assure you the entire National Economic Council in this building, as well as our Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, have been talking with the trade team about this. There's been many meetings on this, and they are on the ball, but I don't have anything specific for you.
Attorney General Eric Siebert could not find any evidence that he committed a crime. So is the president saying here it doesn't matter if there's a crime?
Oath of office. Letitia James was
Does not
actively
explain
and
how.
openly engaged in lawfare. You talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice. What was Letitia
And yet,
James'
after a 5-month
campaign
estimate,
slogan? Trump committed a crime, which of course we did not. Those are not the words of a serious prosecutor. Those are the words of a corrupt politician who is abusing their power. An appeals court.
Hold on. Here's a double standard. They've been verbally criminalizing the entirety of the left and Antifa this entire time without bringing forth any kind of evidence and whatnot. And yet, they're just going to say all this shit about Letitia and then not to expect from a corrupt fascist government.
Questions.
But why won't the president accept the conclusions of Siebert, who again was picked by President Trump?
I just answered that question for you, and the president has every right to express how he feels about these people who literally campaigned on trying to put him in jail, who literally tried to ruin his life and ruin his businesses, and he wants to see accountability for those who abuse their office and abuse their power. And Letitia James absolutely did that.
And yet, after a 5-month investigation, nothing was found.
Yeah, it's accountability.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 foreign policy questions. President Putin has offered President Trump a 1-year extension of the most recent treaty limiting nuclear weapons. Does the White House have a reaction to that? Does the president want to accept that offer? And then one separate issue, just generally, what is the president's response or reaction to the number of countries this week who are planning to or have recognized a Palestinian state?
2 great questions, Jeff. To your first question about Russia, the president is aware of this offer extended by President Putin, and I'll let him comment on recognizing a Palestinian state. The president has been very clear. He disagrees with this decision. He spoke about that in the UK, standing right next to his friend, Prime Minister Starmer, and he does nothing to end this conflict and bring this war to a close, and frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas. So he
Charlie
believes
Kirk's what?
These decisions are...
Okay, so real quick, for a chat who can't hear, my partners asked me if I had looked into the background of Charlie Kirk's widow yet. Miss USA pageant winner from when Trump was owned the Miss USA pageants, in which in the surrounding area where the charity that she was working out of, that area had an abundance of children. If that's all I can remember off the top of my head. I do have to look more into that if that's something that I need to look into. What was her first name? Erica Lane Kirk. Thank you. The fact that they have the same first name as my sister is disturbing. That's probably the only reason why I don't remember her first name. Sorry. Yep. Okay, back to this, and then we'll look that up. We'll address that in another video, another live. All right. Well, while that's about taking a 50K bribe from members of the FBI. So this is an article from Reuters. President Trump's board czar Tom Homan accepted a $50,000 bag of cash from undercover FBI agents last year in a since closed U.S. Justice Department bribery investigation. Two sources familiar with the material said on Sunday in the alleged scheme, Homan promised immigration-related government contracts when he joined the Trump administration in exchange for the money, the sources said, speaking anonymously to discuss non-public investigations. FBI Director Kash Patel ordered the investigation closed over the summer. One of the sources says Homan could not be reached for comment. This matter originated under the previous administration and was subjected to a full review by FBI agents and Justice Department prosecutors. They found no credible evidence of any criminal wrongdoing, according to Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. That was made on a statement Sunday. The department's resources must remain focused on real threats to the American people and not baseless investigations. As a result, the investigation has been closed because these people want, first of all, they don't care about the corruption. They want yes men. They want people who are loyal to Trump in office. That's all they really care about. They don't care if they're corrupt or not. Secondly, to top that off, they want ICE to continue doing things. They want Latina persons, non-Americans of any kind, realistically, non-white people out of the country. So if their borders got a $50,000 cash bribe and promise of better contracts from the government for whomever, when their entire plan was to deport people en masse, I mean, that's only in line with what they want. Of course, they're not going to they're going to cover up. They're not going to punish the guy who's doing what they want him to do. The probe into Homan started around August 2024, near the end of President Joe Biden's administration, and stemmed from a separate national security investigation. One of the sources, bribes in exchange for future government contracts, the two sources told Reuters. An undercover sting operation was set up and Homan was caught on a recording accepting $50,000 bribe in a bag from the restaurant chain Cava, the sources said. Homan oversees the Trump administration's campaign of mass deportation of people in the country illegally, while White House said he has not been involved in awarding any contracts. He is a career law enforcement officer, a lifelong public servant who is doing a phenomenal job on behalf of President Trump and the country, quoting Abigail Jackson, whose White House Deputy Press Secretary said in a statement. Grand jury probe into the Homan in the Western District of Texas was still in its early stages when Trump returned to the White House in January, the sources said. Emil Bove, who is acting Deputy Attorney General and is now a federal judge, was briefed on the case in February. One of the sources said in that exchange he expressed displeasure with the probe and said it was an example of deep state operation, referring to the idea of unelected officials secretly controlling the government. His statement for Patel and Blanche said that probe was a blatantly political investigation and yet another example of how the Biden Department of Justice is using the resources that and its acting director during Homan ran a consulting business to help companies obtain immigration-related government contracts. So, that's all that on Homan and his taking of a $50,000 bribe. While we're waiting on YouTube to unfuck itself for that last video, we do want to cover one thing. I don't understand how and all that. I guess it's appropriate that we move into our next little bit, which is ICE's new ad, which I suppose for the people who don't know is very Pokemon coded. Let's just play. I wish the audio would load. That'd be fantastic. We see where this is going, right? I'm honestly very annoyed that YouTube decided to stop working at the moment. The last couple segments that we got today are all videos. So we may have to wait for YouTube to decide that it's done being stupid in a loading process. I know I'm live. I know y'all can still see me. I don't know what the fuck YouTube is doing. So we'll give this